Hey there, and welcome back to the Angie McPherson Show. Today, I am joined by my friend, Janine Mix. She is a money coach, public speaker, and an investor. Janine's journey is truly incredible, and I've been so inspired by her since the day that I met her. She went from being 6 figures in debt to becoming a 7-figure entrepreneur. And as she says in this episode, she did not get there by cutting up her credit cards and skipping her lattes. Janine now owns a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. She was able to retire at 33, and she travels all around the world, and she's on a mission to help women transform their relationship with money, empowering them to increase their income and impact. Now, our conversation went pretty deep into stories and events that have shaped our money mindsets. Janine also shares how to overcome the shame and guilt around debt, gaining financial clarity surrounding your goals, and creating lasting wealth. Our conversation was so good that I've decided to make this a 2-part episode, so stay tuned right here for part 1 with Janine Mix. Hi, Janine.
Hi, Angie.
Girl, I'm so excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat all things money and building wealth. I am selfishly excited to have you on here because a lot of the things I want to talk about are going to be like personal to my life. I might not say like, hey, what do you think I should do? I might make it like a generic question, but just know it's probably a question I have for myself.
I love it.
So thanks for coming on. Can you just tell the audience like a little bit of your own money story? Because I've heard your money story, and I'm just like, you've made some big investments when you really didn't have the money, and so I would love for you to share like how you basically got to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think my story begins very typical of many people's story where, you're told to go to college, get a good degree, and, get a good job, and that's how you'll be successful at life. And so I did. I actually didn't want to go to college. I argued with my parents. I didn't want to go to college.
Wow.
I wanted to be an actress. I just wanted to go on auditions. By the time I was in high school, I was already doing extra work. So I didn't feel it necessary for that particular degree to get it, or for that particular niche to get a degree. Yeah. And they kind of fought with me. And I think it was because, like most parents, they do have your best interests. And they're like, well, we didn't go to college. We want you to go to college. And they do want the best for you. But it was not the best decision because, one, they didn't save up for me for college. Not that I necessarily think that parents should or that that's their responsibility, but certainly would have been helpful. 2, because I was given the advice, well, you should go to college. So make sure it's a really good one. Okay.
So even more money.
Yep. So I went to a private university where I was paying $50,000 a year.
Wow.
And I was just told to take loans. I still can't believe, I couldn't have walked into a car lot and gotten a new car at 18, but I can agree to $50,000 a year education. I just feel like I was the victim of predatory college lending.
Right.
And so I did. I went to a really great college. I got my theater degree, and I finally felt like, okay, now I get to go do the thing I want to do. Right. But unfortunately, those loans set in, and I was paying $1,200 a month just in student loans. That's crazy. That was more than my rent at the time living in Los Angeles.
Yeah. LA. Oh my gosh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And so it was so expensive that now I had to pick up multiple jobs just to pay my bills. I wasn't able to go on auditions. I got to see a lot of my peers I graduated, they're on shows right now. And I'm like, that's so cool. But they were doing auditions. They were going on these things that I didn't have that ability because I paid my way through school. I had to pay the loans. And, so I picked up waitressing jobs. I worked in retail. I literally worked all the time. If you knew me back in LA, that's all I ever did was work. And just to make ends meet, And I remember having a conversation with my sister, just feeling so defeated. I can't go have dinner with my friends. I don't have the time or the money. I'm doing all this work, so I'm not able to do the thing I actually want to do. Right. And she was really kind in wanting to help me budget my money through using the envelope system. And unfortunately, what that did for me every week was just remind me how broke I was, how I was never going to get ahead. And that I'd have to suffer like this for a long time until my debts are paid off. And then when I retire, then I can live. And that was kind of the typical advice that I was given. And I just, something inside of me, when you're also living in Los Angeles where you see, I was working with celebrity clients, you see so much money. I'm like, they don't have cash of envelopes. Like they aren't doing this way and they're very successful. Like, so there's got to be other ways. And so I've kind of always been the person that's against the grain. So I'm like, I think there's got to be a better way than cutting out my coffees, cutting up my credit cards, only focusing on paying off my debt. And until I'm debt free, then I can live. I just was like, that's not the life that I want to live. I don't want to live on rice and beans. I actually don't want to live on rice and beans. And
I don't think anyone does, but you're right. People think that is the only way. Like, okay, stop going to Starbucks. And that's going to get you $1 million. But no, it actually doesn't.
No, it says no wealthy person ever. Except for one, which, we're referring to, but that's also not how he's worth $300 million. He's worth $300 million because he's a brilliant marketing and businessman. And, that's the kind of advice I would be taking from him versus financial advice. And so I was living in LA. I was hating my life. I was miserable. I had nothing to show for it. At the time, I was making like $55,000 a year, which seemed good in retail. And it was for being like 21 years old. And I had nothing at the end of the day to show for it.
Wow.
And so I hit the reset button on my life and I moved to Montana. And it was funny. I met a boy in LA. He's now my husband. And it all worked out. I like to say that this isn't a Cinderella story where he saves me from my evil, debt sister. No, he didn't save me or rescue me. In fact, when I met him, he was just as broke. He had bad credit. We both had the same vision for our life, that we wanted something more.
Right.
And it wasn't going to be in LA. It would be much harder to get that life in Los Angeles. And so we were both broke and had everything and nothing to lose at the same time. So we hit the reset button on our life. We moved to Montana. I didn't even know, to be honest. I had to Google, where is Billings, Montana?
Wait. Why did you go there?
He had lived here when I met him several years before, he had lived here for a summer and fell in love with it. His mom gave me this really cool report. When he was 10, he wrote a report of what he wanted to do with his life, which he wanted to be a taxidermist, which I'm really glad he's not. I'm
wow.
I'm totally not into having dead animals hanging on the wall. He wanted to live in Montana. When he was 10, he wrote that. I think there's something about Montana that calls adventurous men to it. And he just wanted to be here. And so he loved it and fell in love with it, hated LA, hated everything about LA, the concrete jungle, the fact that you couldn't go on trails that, were in the mountains. You really couldn't do that. And so we moved to Billings, and I'd like to say that it was all success from there, but it wasn't. We got into the same pattern of just get a job and, get our consistent paycheck. We wanted to start investing in real estate. At the time, he handed me a book that he had read when he was 19, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which a lot of people who start investing in real estate, that's the number one book. If you want to learn if you want to learn about assets and liabilities and how to build passive income, that's the book you have to read. And I would say I've heard every successful person that I look up to read this book. And it's absolutely the book that changed my life and my perspective around money and investing as well.
Yeah.
And so he hands me this book and he's like, let's start investing in real estate. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
And again, I had that basic mentality or the general mentality of debt's wrong. It's bad. Why would I take on more debt? So here I am. I had $120,000 of student loan debt. First of all, Angie, who do you know that has that kind of debt that isn't a doctor?
Right.
I got a theater degree. When I say that out loud, that I had 6 figures in debt from a theater degree, I realized now as an adult, you're 18 to 20, you don't know what the heck you're doing. You're relying on the people around you to give you the best advice, your advisor, your parents, right? And they're saying this is just what you need to do. I remember when I got into my junior year, when I'm signing again on some more debt, I asked, I was so stressed about it. And they're like, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay anything now.
Right. Pay later when you get a job.
It all hits later. Right. I had no idea that it was going to be $1,200 coming out of college. So it was definitely one of the worst financial decisions I've ever made in my life. And a huge point in my life where I gave up my financial power to other people that I thought were smarter than me, which I think we do.
Right.
We do that to our financial advisors, our spouses, our parents. Like, we often give up our financial power to other people thinking they're smarter. They obviously figured something out, you know?
Right.
And so, hit the reset button, started investing in real estate. At the time, I mentioned my husband had bad credit because at 19, he had started investing in real estate in 2009 when the economy crashed.
Oh,
and
no.
So he had a foreclosure on his record at a very young age. And so he had bad credit. He lost his job. He was actually working for the Wells Fargo foreclosure department. So he lost his job because they felt it was a conflict of interest. Word got around in the office that he was investing in real estate. So without any warning, he was literally escorted out of the building.
I see.
And he was like, the week before he got fired, they were celebrating his achievements for processing the most foreclosures in a day or something. And they threw him a pizza party. So it's really kind of ironic and funny. But it's what we both needed. Like, at the time, I had a good job. So he gets fired. He has 6 months of unemployment. And we're like, it's go time. Like, it's now or never. Again, we're kind of in that situation. We have everything and nothing to lose at the same time. So bad credit, no job. I'm 6 figures in debt. And we have no money. Like, there's no like savings account. I had a few $1,000s to my name. We aren't married at this point, which is kind of, I think about my risk tolerance, and I would say that I probably have a higher capacity for risk than a lot of people, because I don't know a lot of people who not marry someone, buy properties, and do some of the move across country, you know, and do all these things. And I think I've always had that spirit again of just like, why not? I have nothing to lose. Let's just go for it. And so we did. And that first deal, we ended up using someone else's money. We did a flip. And that flip made us about 20, 30 grand. And then we just kind of kept doing that over and over again until, like, Ryan never had to go to another job again. He's been full-time real estate ever since. I stayed at my job because I looked good on paper. I had the W-2. So we worked together until I could finally leave the job and we could be financially free and do whatever we want, because we had enough properties to do that. So that's kind of the quick version of our story. And now we have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. I was able to retire at the age of 33. We can travel around the world and still make money. And I find it really interesting, like, in this space right now, and you know this too, in the online space, everybody's kind of pushing membership and online business and all this stuff. I feel really grateful that 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago now, 13 years ago, we focused on the passive income first, because I feel like we have the things that memberships and those things provide, which is continuity and that consistent income. Because, you know, like, an online business is still very much active income. And so,
really passive.
right. And so we were able to really focus 13 years solid on the passive income piece, that now we have the ability to do what we want, to work on different types of businesses, to not have to rely on that income, because we have our income coming from our real estate. So it's been a huge blessing for us, for sure. And we worked really, really hard to get there.
Janine, you are such, I should have like started with this, but I was like, let's just start talking. Like, you're so inspiring to me. Like, I'm going to get emotional just thinking about it. Like, just seeing, why am I getting emotional? From the first time I met you, you know, we met through Jasmine Starr's social curator event that she had, and just seeing the life that you live. Like, we're close in age, and when we met, I just saw you as like, oh, I could never do that. I could never have like multiple homes. I could never, I'm getting emotional. I remember you were like snowbirding in Florida in the winter, and I was like, oh my gosh, that looks so fun. I could never just like live in another place for over like 30 days. And just like, it's just, I love that you share that stuff, because it shows what's possible. And cut to now, we have 3 homes. We stayed in Orange County, California for a month last summer.
Mm-hmm. I remember messaging you and being like, this is amazing.
And it's just like, the more that you show up, you share, you help people. I box you the most random questions. I'm like, okay, haven't talked to you in a month, but what would you say
I
if
love
I
it.
said, hypothetically speaking, should we sell this house to buy? Like, and you just give so freely. And, a lot of people don't have those types of people that they can talk to like that. Because like you said, parents, siblings, cousins, the neighbor down the street, they might not have that type of growth and lifestyle and even mindset. So it's hard to get that. And my parents are amazing. My family is amazing. Like, but once I moved into this like entrepreneurial space, I really saw like, oh my gosh, like the possibilities, the opportunities are endless.
Mm-hmm.
There's no salary cap. There's no boss to give me a promotion because I did well. Like, I can create this life for myself. And so I just want to like thank you, like, for being you, for showing up. Like, you have amazing like resources and programs and things that you've done over the last, decade plus. Like, I even took your husband's real estate investing course.
I know.
I think I messaged you or boxed you and I was like, can I just like, is there a course that Ryan could take off the shelf and give to me?
And I was like, actually.
And I invested in it. And we had already moved. My husband and I moved into a starter home in the year before we got married, 2010. And we moved into a new home, but kept that home as like a rental. So we'd already had a rental property, but it was like kind of like we eased into it. We didn't have to make these crazy decisions, get a loan for like a property, an investment property. Like, we never been through that before. So I was like, I was told my husband, I was like, let me ask Janine if her husband has this course that I can invest in, because there are plenty of courses that I can look at for YouTube videos, but I had just seen how you two had done it. And I was like, can I just invest in this? And I watched that whole thing, and we bought a property like within the next 3 to 4 months, and we still have it as a long-term rental. And so I did not plan to get emotional. I knew I would probably get emotional talking about money because it's such a taboo topic.
Yeah.
But we need people like you who go against the grain and do things differently and aren't afraid to share how they got there. Like, you went from 6 figures in debt to your 7-figure entrepreneur, retired at 33, which is wild. I don't even think I knew that until this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to like dive into a bunch of different topics today with you. Like, so thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for just like laying the groundwork. I'd love to talk about like what it took you and what it can take other people that were in your shoes. Because people might resonate with this and say, oh my gosh, I have $50,000 in debt or $100,000 in debt. Or people might say, I have $10,000 in debt, but I'm not making a lot of money. What do you really think it takes when people think they're like a money problem? Like, what do you think it takes to move into the next phase of life where you're out of that?
So you kind of brought up many things in that. And one, why you're getting emotional. Money is emotional, and it is. I would lose endless nights of sleep crying over my debt. I would be sick to my stomach. I honestly believe I would have developed cancer had I stayed in my circumstances, because I was so toxically emotional about the burden and the bond, like the debt bondage that I had. And so all of these things come down to, it's not really a money problem, it's your identity problem. How you view yourself worthy enough of money. I talk about our 3 money influencers in my Prosper Path. Your 3 money influencers are: what did you hear about money? What did you learn about money? And what have you experienced about money or around money? And I call those, like, your experiences are often your money events. And so for you, Angie, like, you have a loving family, but what were some things that you heard about money in your family?
You got to work hard to make money. That was definitely one. And that is something that I work very hard. And I think that's why I get emotional, is because I would love to work a little bit less.
Yes.
And like enjoy life more. Your reels that you've been posting of the old grandma. That's just, you guys, if you have not gone to Janine's Instagram, she's putting on like a wig. She's looking like an old lady. She's like, yay, I finally get to enjoy my retirement. I love it. I love it because a lot of people don't even really think that far ahead. They're like, okay, like, yeah, when I get to retirement age, but like when you see Janine with that wig and you're like, do I really want to start enjoying life? Like, do I want to work so hard for 40, 50, 60 years and then enjoy retirement? Like, I feel like that was the path that I was on. You know, I went to college, I got a good education, I got a good job. And once I picked up my camera, it was like, and I started making money with photography, and I was making more in an hour of photography that I was making in an hour of my 9 to 5. I was like, you really don't have to run yourself to the ground to make $1. So it was really like, I grew up thinking, work hard, get a good education, make money, go up the ladder, get the next promotion, get employees under you, have good performance reviews. Like, that's what I thought about money, is like, that is how you get more money. And the amount of money I made in my business, working for myself, doing what I love, working, you know, sometimes I work 40 hours a week. Sometimes I work 10 hours a week. Sometimes I'm like, hey, it's my kid's spring break. I'm not doing any work this week. And like, I get the ownership of that.
Yeah.
Like, that is worth more than gold to me. It's just like the freedom. And so now I'm also, another money story I had growing up is just like money was worth more than time almost. And now I'm just like, time is invaluable. Like, it's invaluable. Like, you can get money back. Like, and I think about this when I make like investment decisions, like a high investment decision, a low investment decision. I'm like, okay, this costs this much money, but also like, it's going to save me so much time, that I can focus that time on a bigger revenue generating opportunity that can bring in more money. So I think my two things were like, work hard, make a lot of money, and also like focusing more on like the dollar amount than the actual time that comes with it.
Right. And money comes and goes, like you said. Time is the unrenewable resource. Like, you only get today and you're not promised tomorrow. So it's a non-renewable, finite resource. And I think at the beginning, when you're broke and you're not financially free and you don't have a bunch of money coming in, all you have is your time. And it's very natural and normal for you to sell your time, because your time is not as valuable when you start, and everybody starts there. And as you work towards building something, you start to realize, it's my time that is more valuable. What can I do? Can I increase my value, my price, my profitability, my ceiling, right? Because the thing is other gurus in this space will only focus on what you can cut out. But how many of us want to continue to cut out date nights, cut out coffees, cut out kids playing in some camps during the summer? Like, you can only cut so much out. Like, your expenses have a floor, but your income has no ceiling. And that's really where I emphasize putting the focus on, because a lot of people focus on this one side of the budget and that's it. And that's all you have. But you know, because you're an entrepreneur and you've seen it happen, you could increase your sales in one weekend, like, and that income, and you're like, whoa, like, that's so much more powerful and makes such a bigger difference than cutting out the coffee or the date night or the movie night, right? Like, those tiny insignificant things, I think, are the things that distract us from focusing on the bigger things. And I'm in the process. My book is going to be published soon. It's called Buy the Damn Coffee. And
I love that.
I'm like, you know, I'm kind of, I mean, it's an anthem. It's an anthem for any woman who has ever felt the guilt of buying a coffee or going on that date night or treating herself to something. And that's the thing. If you could just get better with that, if you could just be responsible for once, these are all the things we hear, right? Or we treat ourselves, we become in a very toxic relationship with money. Like, I don't, if my husband talked to me like that, I'd have something to say, but I talk to my own self like that.
Right.
You know, I let money kind of do that to me. Like, oh, there you go again. Didn't have the discipline. Oh, couldn't say no. And then what do? Then we punish ourselves in many different ways. We binge, we skip lunch. Like I talked about that in my book, is like how sad. I actually cried when I was typing it. Well, how sad that like I felt like my coffee was such a sacrifice, and I was shaming myself for it because of what I'd been told. And how sad that I would like not have lunch that day to make up for the $5 that I spent. So I wouldn't eat. Like that's really toxic, you know? And so Buy the Damn Coffee in the book is a movement against that. It's not those things, because you can talk to any successful person and they're not going to say it was skipping their coffee that made them successful or drinking their water goals that made them successful. Those are not the things. The thing that made them successful was solving a problem and monetizing that problem. Like that's it. And like they focus on the endless ceiling you can have on your income, which is the whole other side of your budget that people don't talk about. And that's where I'm like, I want to open that conversation, you know? And then same with your money event. Like, you know, Angie, did you ever have like, I'll give you an example of one of my money events, but I want to ask you, like, did you ever have a money event? For me, one of my very first money events that I had was actually with my mom shopping for back to school shopping. And I had this amazing, it felt like that Pretty Woman experience where my mom was like, she'll try on everything on the mannequin. And I remember going to Claire's, and I mean, we went to all these stores and I got a lot of stuff. See, when I grew up, I was mostly a tomboy. And so I think it was like junior year of high school. I told my mom, I kind of want to start dressing like a girl and in dresses. And she was like, my girl is finally here. And so she was, let's go shopping. And so we go to Palm Springs, we go to all these stores, and I walk out with armfuls of school clothes for the new year. And it was just such an amazing time, an amazing memory with my mom. And I remember we drive home, we're in her Dodge minivan and we park the car. She leans over and she says, okay, your dad's asleep, so we're going to wait until your dad is asleep to bring in the bags.
Oh, wow.
So here, all of a sudden, this elated, amazing experience that I had, I now have shame and guilt. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Is dad mad at me? Did I just hurt us? Did my mom just spend money we didn't have? Because I didn't need the clothes that bad, right? Like I had all of these emotions wrapped up. I waited till he was asleep. I brought in the bags. I cut off the tags and I hung my clothes. That one money event stuck with me for decades. I would hide my purchases. I'd feel bad for buying clothes. And I think it was like maybe a year ago, I talked to my mom about this money event because it's in my book. Yeah. I wanted to talk to her about the money event, and I wanted to break like generational curses, you know? And I asked my mom, I said, do you remember that time? She goes, oh yeah, that was amazing. I said, do you remember you said this to me? And she goes, oh my gosh, that's weird. Your dad wouldn't have cared. And I was like, oh, no. Could you not? She's like, we had the money. I didn't put that on a credit card. And I was like, I just was like, do you know how much that has shaped my experience? So there's so much healing in actually confronting my money event with the person who I experienced it with. And then also something that I do now with my husband, when I buy clothes, because that money event will replay and your cycle will replay all the time. And I want to share a mix shift framework with your listeners to use. But so for me, that money event was like buying clothes is wrong and bad and, harmful. And that's not always the case. And so that was my money story that I was playing in my head. So when I'd buy clothes, I'd feel guilty. I'd find myself coming to my closet and not telling my husband. And I was like, this is so dumb. We have the money. And so now I come home and I try on everything for him. And I say, look at what I got. And it's a way for me to break that story to myself, So I recommend using this mix shift framework, and it's MIX. It's my last name. So it's easy to remember. The first is like, what is the message that you're telling yourself? So Angie, what's the message that you heard, learned, or experienced around money? For you, it was, you have to work hard for money. Because that's the message. The I is asking yourself, is that true? Is it true that the only way to make more money is to work hard for it? It's not true, you know? So what is the X is cross out that old message and rewrite. So what is the message that you'd rather be telling yourself? So for you, Angie, if your message is you have to work hard for money, what's the message? You know that that's not true. What would you rather be saying? my money and earning potential is not tied to my time.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and like we have to rewire our brains because these money stories and experiences and what we learn from other people, from, our parents, they shape at a very young age and they stay with us. And we have to recognize it. And they come up. These money stories for me have come up at every level of success or failure that I've had. It's like, there it is again. There's the money story. Like I went for my first time and had a shopping spree in the Scottsdale Mall at Neiman Marcus. I didn't realize they were closing. I had an amazing time. I come out of the fitting room after like an hour and a half of being styled. I get all these outfits. The store is closed. I go down the escalator feeling like a Kardashian. I'm not going to lie. Like it felt amazing. I walk out of the store. I get to the hotel and I break down crying. Because there was my money story again. And I called Ryan. We both had planned that I was going to go on this shopping spree. I already knew how much I was going to spend. Like we had the money. Nothing went on. Well, it went on a credit card for credit card points, but I didn't pay interest on that. I paid that credit card off. And there it was again, my money story. Dang it, man. I thought I was past that, right? Like I thought I was past that, but it will continue to remind you like how ingrained those things are. But now, like I talked with Ryan, calm myself down. Okay, what was the message? I'm not worth the clothes. I'm not worth this. I don't deserve this. Okay. Is that true? No. I'm going to hurt us. Was that true? No. What was the story? I'm allowed to buy myself. I'd never spent this much. I'm not really like a designer person. I don't think I'll ever like have a designer bag. I don't care about that. I like styling myself and feeling confident. And I've always been into fashion that way. So for me, it's not about like having a Louis Vuitton. For some people, that's what they want. It's not what I want. So for me, it's like having that experience in the fitting room, having multiple outfits put together of things I absolutely love in my closet. Like I love that. That's one of the uses of money. And then as I was talking with Ryan, he's like, the money that we earn is meant to be enjoyed. If all we ever do is just invest it or just save it or just use it to pay off debt and you're not enjoying it, then it's purposeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so anyways, that's like the mix shift framework that you can use. And you can use that for anything in your life, but especially when it comes to your money and your money story and your money identity.
Yeah. I love that. I'm already thinking like, I was trying to think of like my own money event. And gosh, I just feel like I suppress so much stuff. It's hard for me to even think of a moment. Like, I'm sure that I've had events like this.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to unpackage these in therapy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're probably under the surface.
Right.
And I might make decisions based on events, but I just can't remember the particular event. So I think for me, I need to probably do some like journaling and some reflecting to figure out what those events were and how they are shaping decisions I'm making to this day. So
there's a girl who wrote, I can't remember her last name. It's Jennifer. And she wrote, You're a Badass at Making Money.
Yeah.
And I think in that book, one of the exercises she gives, and I heard this from a friend, that you write a story to money. And I thought that was really an interesting exercise, is like, dear money, and talk to money. How has it served you? What are you unhappy with your money? What do you, like talk to money like you're writing a letter. Yo, money. I haven't always treated you right. I haven't always appreciated what you offer me in this life. I haven't always used you wisely. I am afraid of making more of you. Like, what is the real truth behind some of these money stories? And that's why I say it's not money problems. It's not just a spending habit. It's not just that you're in debt. It's not these things. It's your wrapped up identity around money. And how many women especially feel like making money and wanting to be successful and have money is wrong. And debt is morally wrong and condemned. Like, says who? Says this one guy who built his entire business on it. Like, not all debt is created equal, man. Like, I have more debt now than I ever had with my student loans, and it's making me wealthier every day. So I'm like, and this is my retirement plan. And in 30 years, when all those are paid off, or sooner, if I choose to pay those properties off faster, I will be set for life. Like, that's crazy. And I couldn't have done any of that without using this tool.
Right.
So.
I love that. We were boxing a couple weeks ago about maybe a couple months ago when I was asking you one of my hypothetical questions.
I love your hypothetical, by the way. When I get that hypothetically boxer from Angie, I'm like, yes.
I'm like, we're not 100% going to do this. We're just having conversations. And I was like, let me box
I love
Janine.
it.
You said like you're only a couple of homes really away from being set for life.
Right.
And just thinking about like having, like for us, for example, we have 2 homes. We have 3 homes. We live in one. 2 are long-term rentals, and people are going to be in them for the next 30 years renting them. And then we can either like cash out or sell or whatever. And I'm thinking like my goal with my business is to, financially speaking, is to produce funds to buy more investment properties. And I know that people invest in real estate, stocks, things like that. Like, what is your advice for entrepreneurs? Because I feel like entrepreneurs will already have that mindset. We're like, okay, like let's make the money work for me. Like, what is your advice for entrepreneurs that might be thinking it's not possible? Like I said years ago, and I'm looking at you, I'm just like, I don't think I could ever do that. Like, let me just make my money in my business and save and put things away here. Like, and I finally started to get a little bit riskier with my funds. Like what advice do you give to the entrepreneur listening to this that was in my shoes years ago? And like something they could do, like even like an activity they could do. Maybe it's like spending a little bit, like testing the waters, like investing a little bit, just to like show them like how it doesn't have to be such a huge fearful thing, how it can be risky, but like it can be a calculated risk. Like, what's your advice for someone who's like, I just want to test the waters a little bit to see that this won't blow up my life if I'm trying to do something bigger than this?
Well, I think that's the thing is it going to blow up your life? Is one financial bad investment going to ruin your life? Only if you let it.
Yeah.
Money comes and goes. Like I know people who have literally ended their life because of their financial bills and their debt. That's insane to me. This is one aspect of your life. It is not your life. But I think you have to know that if you want, anything you want is on the other side of risk and failure and fear. Like you will make some investments that don't work out as great. So what?
Right.
I love this saying, some will, some won't. So what? Like some will work out, some won't. So what? Like don't tie your identity into, well, I did that one investment once and it didn't make as much as I thought. So I must be a failure at investing. Like that's the new message that you wrote. Is that true? No. What's more true is probably that wasn't the right investment. So try again. And I think that if you want anything financially, there's inherently risk. There's some luck. Like, I think that I read in this really amazing book, the whole story of like Bill Gates. Bill Gates would have never done what he did with Microsoft had his school not gotten these computers. Like, I thought that was like so fascinating. Like, that's a little bit of luck right there. Yeah. Like, where they started coding and doing some things at a very young age, had this, like, there was like one mom who advocated to get this software in the school. Oh, okay. Wow. Would he have had the life he has now? So there's a little bit of luck. There's always risk. And there's always fear. I think also a lot of your audience is probably an entrepreneur. It's the same way that you start your business. You have to just take that leap of faith. You can use fear to fuel you. You can use fear as a compass to guide you. It's necessary for success. Yeah. You don't get to have success without failure and fear and risk. So you have to assess those things and realize like what's more risky. For me, it was like, what's more risky, staying at a job that I'm not promised? I left this job after 7 years. I thought I was going to be there for life. I was going to open up an additional store, all this stuff. I left after 7 years, and 3 years later, she closed her doors entirely. So what job security did I actually have? Like look at the year of 2020. Okay. Let's look at that year. How many people thought they had security and everything changed? And for Ryan and I, during that time, we actually accelerated in our growth. We leaned in heavier into our real estate business and we skyrocketed from that because we've already built the stepping stones for real estate and we just leaned harder and we didn't have to worry about not going back to work, or is my job going to open up? Am I going to have a job? Is AI going to take my job? Like, I don't have to worry, I don't have to worry about those things because I've built something sustainable that we have. Does every real estate deal or every flip work out? The majority of them do. If you do it right, you actually lower your risk. Like, do we want to buy a house that doesn't make sense financially? No, never. I'd rather pass on a deal than ever take a deal that's going to harm us. Some of them haven't worked out as great. We've never like significantly lost on a real estate transaction, a business transaction, but not a real estate one, to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, we'll never do this again. No. And also, like, you can take away money, you can take away a property, you can't take away knowledge. And as you're learning as an entrepreneur and as you're investing more, like, that's something you can continue to take with you to rebuild. And that confidence is only something you get as you're building like more and going towards that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question too about what should someone who's an entrepreneur start doing? I think there's a couple of things. One, you have to track your money. If you want massive clarity, if you want to stop feeling stuck, if you want to stop feeling overwhelmed, you can't just keep shooting from your hip anymore. You can't just be like, I don't know what I spent 2 weeks ago on any of my bills or my business. And you do one of two things. The bills come, the credit card statements come, the invoices come. You are like, oh crap, now the savings account you were working on building, you're transferring that money over to pay for that bill. Now that's drained. Okay, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then, or worse, you're waiting till tax season, which tax day was just a few days ago. You're waiting till your taxes are done to even see what your business made, lost, or what you can improve on. You cannot make sound financial decisions if you don't know where your money is and you don't know where you want to go. A lot of people are like, I want to be a millionaire. What does that even mean? Have you even broken that down? How many products do you need to sell to get there? What's your marketing plan to get there? Why do you want that much money? Is it really that, or is it $5,000, $10,000 of cash flow a month? Okay. Like, if you're not knowing where you are and you don't know where you want to go, there's literally nothing you're going to do. You're going to stay in the same stuck cycle and you're never going to change. Your life will not change. And I'm not saying stay in your budget, all that. Like, this isn't like it is a lifelong thing. You should know where your money is. But most people will avoid the budget because of this. They realize they're overspending more than they make. Okay. And they're like, well, I don't want to have to suffer. I'm not saying YOLO. When I say like, buy the coffee, I'm not saying YOLO, do whatever you want, harm yourself financially. That's not healthy. And that's not healthy behavior. And that's not treating yourself as the worthy person you are to have a healthy financial life. So most people are overspending. They don't want to deal with the baggage that comes with that, with the guilt, with the shame, with the maybe if you're in a relationship, with the battle between you and your spouse. Well, you spent this, you spent that. Like, obviously we know it's a huge point of tension in marriages because it's a huge reason people get divorced. So you're avoiding and you're sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich, and you're just hoping that one day it will improve. And if you look at anybody who is successful, you look at Warren Buffett, you look at Elon Musk, you have to get your money making money. That's the only way that you're going to get out of the rat race. Now, you can look at your expenses and you can cut some things out, and you may need to do that like today. Okay. So that's temporary. I think the thing is like, you don't realize. So you're like living in the now. That's a temporary solution to solve a current problem. You do not have to live there the rest of your life completely on like with datelessness and lack of caffeine. Temporarily correct your crap, okay? Put on your big girl pants, correct it, and move forward and focus on the next category, which is your income. Like, don't sit in the guilt and the shame. That's not going to serve you. Focus on your income. If you're making money in your business and you are not taking that active income, if it's just going into constantly your business that's doing nothing for your future, you have now just created yourself a more stressful, more personal reliability job. So if you don't do something like pay yourself, the fact that I even have to say that is crazy because women don't pay themselves. If you don't pay yourself, if you don't pay yourself first, which for me is like, for me, I pay God first. I tithe, I donate because there's absolute magic in like that. So I tithe and then What am I doing with the income that's coming in that's going to go make me more money for my future self, Like this can be stocks, which you can easily do. Go to ellavest.com right now and set up an automatic transfer. That's it. Get some index funds. You do not need a financial advisor. You do not need to go to an Edward Jones guy. Like, you don't need to do that. You need to set up one transfer. And if it's $50 to start, it's getting in building those habits that's going to get you to where you want to go. And building also, like, as you're doing your money, I call it, I have a 5-step money planner, which you can get in the show notes. You'll get on a freebie. As you're going through that, you're going to start realizing, whoa, my money went here and I don't even care that much about that. Like, that's the thing too. You have to start rating, like, what's actually important to you. It might be, you know what? Getting a massage every week is important to me. Yeah. I would rather have that now than everything else my money went to. Eating out, all those things, like whatever it is for you. So if you don't know where your money's going and you don't know what your priorities are for where you want your money to go, you're literally going to be on a wanderless path for the rest of your life. And then guess what? When we all get hit with the age of retirement and we have nothing to show for it and we have to go into senior homes and we have to lose everything we ever had, including our own home, because it's going to cost $5,000 to $10,000 a month by the time inflation hits us. Like that's when it's going to be like, oh crap, and people are so stuck in, I'm too late, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. It's never too late. Today. Literally go set up an automatic transfer today. If you want to invest in real estate, learn. Like, there's never been a better time and more resources available to learn how to do it. Like, that's what's like crazy.
That's exactly where we were. Because like I said, we kind of were grandfathered into this long-term rental. And I knew it was a goal and a priority of ours, but I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to make the wrong decision. And that's what it took for me. I was like, I need to get educated. Like literally, that is what's going to take me from this money story to this next money season, is to figure out what our priorities are, figure out what our goals are. Like for me, I know one of our goals is to have 5 long-term rentals in the next 5 to 10 years. And so now that I have that goal, we work on like, okay, how do we get there? And if we don't know how to get there, what course can we take? What YouTube video can we watch? What mentor can we have to make sure that we're making sound decisions that make sense? And I love that you talked about, someone might want massages. Like, everybody has different goals, priorities, things that are valuable to them. I feel like people might see something like in others. For example, what I saw in you, like, I knew that I wanted that, and I knew that I wanted to travel. I knew that I wanted multiple homes. And so, but there are other people that have maybe a ton of money or a ton of something else. And I'm just like, I'm not in alignment with that at all. You don't have to just look at anyone that you think is of status or has money or something and say like, well, I need to do exactly what this person did, because that person had a whole other background. That person had different challenges that came across, their life. And so it's good to see people and be inspired, but it's also good to look at what are your goals? What are your priorities? What do you find the most valuable in your day-to-day, in your week-to-week? I go through these seasons of like a Starbucks fast, because I do feel like I spend a little bit too much, but it usually isn't like, okay, Angie, just stop going to Starbucks. I'm like, what can I turn that money into? Like, what can I take that $5 coffee that I do maybe, and I'm not addicted, it's maybe once or twice a week, but I'm like, okay, for the month of April, any money that I was going to put to Starbucks, I'm putting to something else. Like right now we're trying to move next year. And so every dollar that is not, I'm like, this is going to the moving fund. Okay. This is going to the moving fund. And so that's different for everybody. That's different for everybody. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah. Your priorities will change. Your goals will change. But if you're not having constant money conversations, you're not constantly looking at the money going in and money going out, and you're not having a plan for that money, it will disappear. That's when you're like, oh, where did it all go? Like we're meant to be the manager, the pass-througher, right? Like we're the steward of it. And in order to be a steward, if you think about stewardship, it's interesting. A mentor of mine told me about this, and we had this conversation. A lot of people are like, I want to be a good steward. And they think, okay, well, that means I'm saving up money and I'm on a budget and those things.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, stewardship, and biblically, when you think about the parable of the 3 talents, it's about multiplication. How do you multiply the money that's in your hands? And that comes with this other guy uses the analogy of like, your dollars are soldiers. And I love that. It's like, if you don't know where your army is, if they're falling through the cracks, then how do you like arrange it? How do you get them working for you? How do you get this fortress, this army working for you to take over and, build your future? So if you don't have control over your soldiers and your dollars, like it's never going to grow. And that's it. And you don't have to do everything all at once. You don't have to be debt free first. Okay. I hate that. Like, I can't blank before I pay off my debt. What is that?
Yeah.
Like, your listeners right now, what are you telling yourself you can't do before you're debt free? And, we talk about financial freedom and your goals. Financial freedom looks different to everybody, but you have to define that. If you have no definition, you have no end goal, then again, you're going to never arrive or never know if you have arrived. Or you're going to accept and adopt someone else's version of financial freedom, which is like 3 Lamborghinis and, and like, I don't think that that's what really fulfills people.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, what does financial freedom mean to you? Because for so long it's been defined as, well, I'm debt free.
Right.
I know a lot of debt free broke people. And I don't say that lightly, you know what I mean? But like, I know a lot of debt free broke people still living paycheck to paycheck who have nothing saved up for their future. Are they financially free? They might feel better, and we can talk about that too. They might feel better because they don't owe anybody anything, but are they financially free?
Okay, friends, I'm pausing this episode right here because there's so much more goodness and insights to come with Janine in part 2. So make sure to tune in next week for the continuation of our deep dive into all things money. And hey, send me a DM on Instagram and let me know what you thought of this episode and if anything came up for you surrounding your money mindset. In the meantime, go out, take some inspired action, and I'll see you next week. Hey friend, thank you so much for tuning into the Angie McPherson Show. I hope this episode ignited a fire within you, motivating you to take bold and inspired action. As a gift for listening, I've created a free download of my business toolkit featuring all the essential tools and apps I use to grow my business. Just head over to angiemcpherson.com/toolkit to get your copy. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening. And if you're feeling extra generous, sharing the podcast with a friend goes a long way, and I am truly grateful for your support. For any resources and links mentioned in today's episode, make sure to check out the show notes. Keep moving forward, friend, as each step takes you closer to your goals. I'll catch you next week for another episode.